Hello, my name is Liu Yanting. Today I would like to discuss with you of this research paper, which is the development of an instructional design model for flipped learning in higher education. I've divided my presentation into a few sections. First, it will start with introductions to provide an overview of the research study, followed by research questions, methods, implications of the findings, merits and shortcomings, and finally, the possible future research directions. Colleges and universities have made ongoing calls for innovations in higher education. However, there are a lot of issues or challenges arises, such as unstimulating classroom experiences, the quality of lectures, traditional lectures, and all this leads to no development of critical thinking skills or complex reasoning skills. In response to these challenges, blended learning has developed and has become a prevalent practice in colleges and universities. Blended learning is a convergence of face-to-face classroom learning with technology-mediated online learning. The main goal of blended learning is to provide students with a more flexible and interactive learning environment that supports core principles of higher education such as advanced research or critical and creative knowledge claims. However, there are still some difficulties faced in designing the blended learning, which is to design the right combinations of online and face-to-face learning. It is not just about combining the two modes of learning or stacking one on top of another. However, it involves integrating both through maximizing the benefits of each environment. If there is no improper blended learning activities, there will be no effective interactions between peers or teachers and students, and there's no individualized passing and flexibility accessing to learning resources. In order to achieve such a better combinations, the research study introduced flipped learning, which is a recently developed type of blended learning, which combines face-to-face classroom learning experiences with online lectures. This kind of blending assumes that neither element plays a supporting role, but rather each component is a core complementary constituent of the learning experience as a coherent whole. In other words, it means that flipped learning saves for human instructors to do what they can do best and leaves to the technology to do what it can do best. However, there are challenges in the design of flipped learning classroom. The design of online lectures should be of sufficient qualities of instructional and technical, which enables students to get ready for more engaging learning activities. However, due to the disturbance from internet, lack of self-control, and insufficient live guidance from instructors, students are unable to understand the lectures even if they are of high quality. Secondly, the design of face-to-face requires greater preparation and deliberations. Most importantly, the design must create strong connections between what students do in class and what they do at home. The designs not only can deliver ongoing, engaging learning experiences, yet still uphold the traditional values of higher education. Therefore, even if flipped learning has a lot of benefits, its potentials may be limited by poor design and implementation, which could prevent an increase in learning practices and outcomes. Therefore, the research questions in the study are: what are blended learning and flipped learning? How to develop an effective and systematic flipped learning design model in higher education? How does a flipped learning design model guide the instructors effectively in the process of design and implementing flipped learning at a higher education level? And finally, to what extent does the flipped learning design model improve students' learning and performance in terms of mathematical views, quality of reflections, and satisfaction of students? Before we discuss the implications of the findings, let's have an overview of the methods and procedures. In the construction of the initial flipped learning model, blended learning and flipped learning literature are mapped onto the AD process, which consists of analysis, design and development, implementations, and evaluation. Blended learning literature constitutes the analysis steps, and flipped learning literature was arranged into the design and development steps along with online and face-to-face sections. An ID model is a systematic tool that helps designers to understand the related variables and guides them through the design process. The study focused on two types of ID models: model development and model validations, and they follow the research methodology explained by Ritchie and Klein. In this study, the flipped learning design model was created by theoretical approaches and practical approaches, which are the synthesis of relevant literature and simulated design tasks and data from actual design projects. A developed model may be validated internally and externally. Internal validations addresses the integrity and the usefulness of the model. External validations focuses on the outcomes of employing the model, which includes the quality of the ID products generated and the product's benefits for learners, clients, and organizations. Internal validations can be done through model usability tests and experts review. External validations can be done through field evaluations, which consist of VAMs, reflection journals, and learner satisfaction survey and follow-up interviews. Here's an overview of the procedure for performing internal validations. There are two groups of participants involved here, instructional teams and experts team. Instructional team will participate in the model usability test 1 and also interviews for the second design model. And in the final design model, the instructional teams and experts teams will participate the second model usability test. And at the same time, the experts will provide experts review, which they answer the questions of validity and review model through interviews. Here's the overview of the procedure for external validation. VAMS measures learners' epistemological beliefs and attitudes about maths by having them choose from two sentences that represent opposing views about maths. At the end of each classes, students are required to record their reflections, which provides qualitative and quantitative data. And in the 7th week of class, satisfaction survey will be performed. And in the 15th week of classes, 3 students from high satisfaction and 2 from low satisfactions will be chosen to take part in the one-to-one interview. As what we have mentioned previously, there are 3 groups of participants that involved in this study. The first group of participants are the instructional design team, which consists of 4 members, 1 university professor and 3 teaching assistants, which are experienced in teaching mathematics. They are the ones that involved in the construction of initial model and participate in the model usability test. Second group of participants are the expert teams, which consists of 5 professors from US and South Korean universities, coming from different backgrounds, but they all have experience in designing a flipped learning range from 1 to 3 classes. And lastly, the third group of participants will be the 18 college students who enroll the algebra courses, which consists of 8 females and 10 males. They are the ones that participate in the external validation. Let's discuss the implications of the findings. In the initial flipped learning design model, after analyzing the learning goals, the content, learners, technological environments, the content features and the external features of online sections were designed, and then were developed as video clips created from slides and graphics, for which shooting, editing, and revising occur throughout the formative evaluation. Then the face-to-face sections will be focusing on the design of initial learning activities and main learning activities, for which related worksheets, quizzes, and instructor's guide were developed. The face-to-face sections were then implemented and evaluated, and provided the data for further revisions of instructional products. The flipped learning design model was first validated via 2 rounds of model usability tests. After the validations and review, there are 2 major ways for improvement. The first was about designing lessons and courses at different levels. It was thought that this needed to be separated because the designers often do different duties for each level of design. Second was to include a formative evaluation step in the center of the model to reflect how the actual flipped learning design process happens. This can be done through revision process, collections of observations, and students' feedback. After the second model usability test, a few improvements has been done. First will be the rapid prototyping processes has been represented at both course and lesson level. And second, a clear texture and visual explanation of the flow of the design processes has been included. Third, clear description of the implicit assumptions and usage scenarios of the model has been provided too. The outcome of this last iteration, the final version of the flipped learning design model and model assumptions is shown in figure 3. Finally, the flipped learning design model can have 3 different usage scenarios at the lesson level. In the first scenario, a full set of online sections is developed, followed by development of a full set of face-to-face sections, then implementation started after the development. In the second scenario, a full set of online sections is developed and each face-to-face section is developed for immediate implementation. In the third scenario, pairs of online and face-to-face sections are developed for immediate implementation. What are the findings in the expert review? The experts were required to rate on the validity, explicability, usability, generality, and comprehensibility of the final design model. The experts generally agree upon the usefulness of the model. This can be seen from the main scores range from 2.8 to 3.8, with higher score of 4 indicating strongly agree and lower score of 1 indicating strongly disagree. The validity of the model is also acceptable. Both the CVI and IRA demonstrated value which was higher than 0.8 for all the items. The experts had positive comments on the design of both separated course and lesson level, and also on the incorporation of a usability test step in designing the flipped learning. Some suggestions were provided by the experts, which is to include a detailed description on the utilization of the model, and also to include guidelines on how to allocate learning content to online and face-to-face sections. Apart from internal validations, there are also external validations performed through field evaluations, which consist of VAMs, reflection journals, and student satisfactions. The findings in the VAMs demonstrated that the flipped learning design model had a very positive impact on the development and implementations of the flipped learning algebra course. This can be seen from the data collected. First will be the Shapiro-Wilk statistics normality requirements were met. Second, the Wilkerson sign rank test and parity test both presented significant higher scores in the post-VAMs than in the pre-VAMs. What does it mean by having higher post-VAM scores? It actually shows that there's an improvement or change in the mathematical views and epistemological beliefs that are now more similar to those of experts. And there's a change also in a way of considering the knowledge. Even they also have developed a stronger mathematical problem-solving skills and greater abilities to synthesize the informations. Therefore, in these studies, the difference between the pre- and post-VAM scores actually shows that there is a positive impact on the development and implementations of the algebra courses. The findings in the reflection journals also demonstrated that the flipped learning design model has positive impact on the course. There is a qualitative improvement in the level of students' reflective thinking. At the start of the semester, the content of the reflection journal were mostly content reflection and process reflections. However, when it approached the end of the semesters, the content of the journals were more of critical reflections, where they can describe their own ways of critical understanding, and also they provide suggestions for the implementations of the flipped learning. The journals also were assessed quantitatively using a combined score for the quality of the reflections and punctuality of the submission, and these scores increased overall throughout the semesters, which can be seen in the graph here. In the findings of the survey of students' satisfaction, there are both negative comments and positive comments. Negative comments included heavy workload, limited time for problem solving, the inaccessibility of instant Q&A. The positive comments included the students are able to pause and repeat the clips whenever they want. It actually offers them more time to reflect and think deeper. There's a lot of opportunities for discussion and active engagement, and the motivations for learning itself has been enhanced. What are the findings in the in-depth interviews? All the students, even the least satisfied one, they expressed great satisfaction with the flipped learning design by the flipped learning design model. They actually appreciate the chances for active participation, which means that they have more interactions between the peers and also with the instructor. 4 learners mentioned that they felt engaged in deeper understandings and also motivated by the learning activities. Besides, one of the benefits of online lectures is actually because of their repeatability. This means that the students are able to pause, rewind, and rethink. If the course is available in the future, the students mentioned that they are willing to take part in the flipped learning course again. And finally, even though the workload has increased, they actually think that the distribution of the total burden of work was more even compared to the previous. There are a few merits and shortcomings found in the research study. First of all is that the flipped learning design models courses have an influence on innovation in learning from a wider institutional context. Second, the goals of the course are established at the macro level. However, it provides guidance for the design of the objectives and content at macro and micro level. Thirdly, the validity of the model is acceptable because it has been evaluated internally and externally. Besides, they also collect reflections and feedbacks from experienced instructional design team and expert teams, which can provide guidance in the model construction and validities, and actually enhance the combinations of the online and face-to-face pair and maximize the benefits of each settings. Besides, the studies also shows that the flipped learning have favorable effects in additional areas such as study skills, abilities to present, interpersonal skills, and open-minded attitudes towards learning. How about the shortcomings in the research study? In general, the more specific a model gets, the narrower the applications of the model becomes. Therefore, it is very challenging to find the best balance between a useful model with specific and practical guidelines and a wide-reaching model with general and flexible guidelines. Only a single case is involved in the development of the flipped learning design model, which is insufficient. Besides, only algebra course involved in the study. The model might have features that can apply to natural science courses, but is not able to apply in others such as liberal arts, social science, or creative arts. In addition, the design features in the model might not be able to actually apply or implement in different sectors of the specialists, such as engineering, physics, mathematics, education, and education technology. And also, there's a lack of comprehensive approaches to evaluate the learning impacts of flipped learning, because in these studies, the outcomes is just measured in terms of epistemology change, quality of reflections, and satisfactions. Finally, there's some suggestions for the future research directions. It is actually worth to explore the broad definitions used for outcomes of flipped learning, as we can see that there are some favorable effects in other additional areas such as study skills, presenting skills, and interpersonal skills. And it is also worth to explore more comprehensive approaches to evaluate the learning impacts of flipped learning, because we mentioned that in this study they only measure the epistemology changes, quality of the reflections, and satisfaction. And then we can also explore design processes of flipped learning model in different disciplines such as liberal arts, social sciences, or art and music. And also the design processes of flipped learning model and actual implementation of this model in the courses related to the experts disciplines such as engineering, physics, mathematics, education, and educational technology. That's all for my presentation. Thank you for your listening.